For those especially brave travelers out there, nothing short of the most dangerous destinations will satisfy you. So today, we're scouring the globe to bring you 10 locations where getting the ultimate killer Instagram shot might actually kill you. This is for those who think, why spend money and time on relaxation when I could be shrieking in terror? So will you be fearless or foolish enough to try these places? You decide. Number 10. The Catacombs of Paris, France. Underneath the beautiful and bustling city of Paris lies a massive graveyard which holds the remains of over 6 million people in a massive tunnel network. It extends south from the appropriately named Gate of Hell and was created to relieve the overwhelmingly full cemeteries above ground. Beginning in 1786, nightly processions of covered wagons would transfer the remains in the middle of the night to the mine shaft opening. It became open to the public in 1874, and many morbidly curious visitors explore the tunnels each year. But the really creepy part is the way in which they are divided into themed sections based on parts of the body. So there's a section just for skulls, one for legs, and so forth. Some of the bones are even piled into artistic arrangements, such as the shape of a heart. The tunnels span 200 feet, and while only part of it is open to the public, many visitors do journey to the off-limits sections anyway. The Paris catacombs are not the first, but definitely the most famous and fascinating in a very grisly and chilling way. Number 9. North Yungas Road, also known as Death Road, Bolivia. The name says it all. This Bolivian road leads from La Paz to Coroico and is so incredibly treacherous that hundreds of drivers die here. And it's no wonder, between the jaw-dropping elevation, the single lanes that are only 3.5 meters wide, and the lack of any guardrails, as well as bad visibility due to frequent rain and fog, this is an incredibly dangerous journey, which of course makes it all the more appealing for the adrenaline junkies out there. The real thrill seekers skip the car and bike instead. The views are incredible, but the question remains, is it worth the risk? Number 8. Jacob's Well, Texas, USA. For an extremely dangerous dive, head to Texas in the US, where you'll find an underground cave system with a natural spring 100 feet deep, or 30 meters. It's been known to swallow people whole, and 8 divers have sadly died in the process. If you do survive the drop, you'll find all types of interesting wildlife and algae, along with multiple chambers and unpredictable silt, which totally wipes out visibility. So dive at your own risk. Number 7. Isla de las Muñecas, also known as Island of the Dolls, Mexico. In the 1950s near Mexico City, a young woman drowned near the canal and her body was swept on shore. After her death, several dolls began washing ashore, and the island's only resident, a man named Julian Santana Barrera, began to experience creepy things like whispers and wailing in the middle of the night, even though his hut was deep in the woods and miles away from civilization. Motivated by fear, he spent the next 50 years hanging dolls all over the island in order to appease the drowned girl's spirit. Following Barrera's death in 2001, visitors and even locals continue to bring more dolls. There are now hundreds and hundreds of dolls hanging from the trees, many of them broken and missing body parts, creating a rather eerie scene. Some locals are willing to take visitors to the island, although many will refuse based on superstition. But if you do make it, beware of the soulless eyes which follow all visitors. Number 6. Ilha de Queimada Grande, also known as Snake Island, Brazil. This is no magical island by any means. In fact, you would never want to be washed up here, because this 110-acre island is filled with over 4,000 snakes. One snake to every single square meter. And these aren't just any snakes. It is the only home to the endangered golden lancehead pit viper, which has such a potent and deadly venom that it can supposedly melt human flesh. This island was once connected to the mainland, but rising sea levels covered the connecting land, confining them to this small island, where they rapidly grew in population. It is closed to the public to protect these endangered creatures, although it should probably be the other way around. The Brazilian Navy and researchers can access the island, and some people have attempted to do so, but I definitely wouldn't recommend it. Number 5. Devil's Pool, Victoria Falls, Zambia. Victoria Falls is the largest sheet of falling water in the world, and as such, it draws many thousands of visitors each year. While most admire the power of the falls from a safe distance, tourists can actually get up close in a naturally formed armchair known as Devil's Pool, where a small and, needless to say, very slick rock wall is the only thing keeping you from plunging 108 meters or 354 feet down the falls. Once you leap into the pool, you'll get pushed to the edge by the river's sheer force, where the rock lip will suddenly stop you from going over the side. Some people dangle their arms and legs over the side, and deaths have occurred as people have slipped over the barrier. But many people take the risk anyway for the face-to-face contact with such a force of nature. But just know that this is definitely not your typical infinity pool. Number 4. Poveglia Island, Italy. Known as one of the most illegal places one could, but definitely shouldn't visit, Poveglia sits right off the coast of northern Italy near Venice. It was this proximity to Venice which began the series of horrific events. During the Roman Empire, this island was used to house plague victims to protect the rest of the country, so these inflicted people were forced to live and die in isolation. Then, during the medieval era, the plague returned, and this time killed nearly 2/3 of the population of Europe, so the island was again used to dispose of bodies, which this time began to quickly pile up, so thousands were dumped into large common graves. Many communities shipped people away who showed slight signs of illness, but didn't actually have the plague, and they were unnecessarily subjected to these horrors. And yet, there's more. From 1922 to 1968, a mental hospital was opened, and due to the isolation and privacy offered by the island, disreputable doctors and scientists were known to inflict terrible experiments and widespread abuse on their patients. I won't go into detail, other than to say hammers, chisels, and even drills were used without anesthesia. Today, over half of the island is composed of human ash, and some people visit to plant and harvest grape vineyards, which thrive in this soil. Visitors have been forbidden for decades, although that doesn't stop thrill seekers from taking a boat over from Venice. Most report feelings of being watched, scratched, and even pushed by unseen forces. Human bones continue to wash up on shore to this day, so that fishermen avoid the area for fear of picking up bones in their nets. The island still remains uninhabited, or does it? Number 3. Pripyat, Ukraine. This once attractive town was not in existence for very long at all. Founded in 1970, it was home to 49,000 residents until the infamous Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986. Terrified residents abandoned everything, and all that remains now is a scary ghost town filled with abandoned auditoriums, deserted amusement parks, and decaying structures. There is now a zone of alienation, which is considered relatively safe to visit, and Ukrainian companies do offer guided tours. But there are still many unstable structures, and a certain amount of radiation does exist even after all these years, so proceed with caution. Number 2. Aokigahara Forest, also known as Suicide Forest, Japan. Located at the foot of majestic Mount Fuji in Japan is a now infamous forest which, in theory, is actually quite lush and beautiful, but sadly has become a mecca for people to take their own lives, with over 70 deaths taking place in 2010 alone. Many other factors contribute to the terrors surrounding the forest. Due to its density and immense size of 7,400 acres, local authorities frequently cannot find the bodies, leaving unsuspecting hikers and visitors to stumble upon them. I do urge you, unlike certain celebrity YouTubers, respect the bodies and lives lost in such a tragic way. Additionally, the forest is eerily quiet due to the extensive amount of moss which absorbs much sound. Be sure you know where you're going, or go with an experienced guide, as there is no cell phone reception, and even compasses won't work due to the great amount of magnetic deposits left in the soil floor. If you get lost, well, suffice it to say, this is not where you want to be after dark. Number 1. Miyakojima, Izu Islands, Japan. There's an archipelago just south of Tokyo which has an extremely unique problem. Due to its location on top of a very active volcano chain, which has erupted 6 times in the past 100 years, there is a constant high concentration of sulfur gas, the largest in the world in fact, which regularly leaks up through the ground. In 2000, a series of eruptions from Mount Oyama led to extremely high levels of the toxic gases, and a mass evacuation was instituted. Even flights into the area were stopped for over 8 years due to the high sulfuric levels in the air. And now, for the reason why we rank this dangerous island number 1. Despite the toxic, smelly air, people now willingly live here. As part of a science experiment to measure the survivability of humans on the island, healthy humans were paid as volunteers to move here. These healthy participants constantly wore gas masks, and their health was monitored. It is these visuals of humans wandering the sulfuric island with gas masks on, hearkening images of a post-apocalyptic land, which really frightens people. But tourists can visit the island, believe it or not, either by boat or a helicopter ride from Tokyo. It has been deemed safe since 2013, but just in case, be sure to grab one of the many gas masks available in the tourist shops. Makes a good souvenir. Thanks for watching. Would you be willing, or have you visited any of these scary travel destinations? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to keep checking in, because you never know what video I'm going to post next, right? Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Passport Pages.